During his remarks, the visiting leaders from 3 European countries, which we mentioned earlier, President Zelensky was exceedingly optimistic about his country's chance for survival. He said that with, quote, friends like this, Ukraine can win. Joined now by New York Times columnist Tom Friedman, whose latest column underscores Ukraine's successes and Russia's setbacks. In the war over Ukraine, he writes, expect the unexpected. He's also the author of a number of best-selling books, including The World is Flat. Tom, I really enjoyed your column, and it raises a lot of really interesting ideas. You write in the column how every war brings surprises, and that for you, the 3 biggest ones so far are, quote, the extraordinary acts of cruelty, courage, and kindness that this war is revealing and inspiring. Talk about that a little bit, about what you've taken from this.
Well, thanks, Anderson. And again, hats off to all the reporters over there. Well, the cruelty refers basically to Putin's whole strategy now, which is just to ravage this country, just to simply ravage it. Because his whole thesis for the war obviously has just blown up. The idea that he was going to come there, decapitate the Nazi, the quote-unquote Nazi leadership, and then this country would simply fall back into the lap of Mother Russia. It's completely blown up, and his strategy now is obviously just to bomb the place to smithereens, and then strut around the ruins like a peacock. But one wonders what he's going to do the morning after that. Think about how weird this is. He told his own people in the world for months that Ukraine was part of the very soul, fabric, and culture of Russia. And now that it's resisted that and proven that's not the case, he's just going to smash the place to bits, but never explaining how it went from one to the other. So that's the cruelty, the mindless cruelty. The courage is the Russian woman journalist who went on the evening news, basically, like someone who stood behind Walter Cronkite during the Vietnam War and held up a sign
Marina
on the most popular news show that this war is all a lie. Anderson, we're both in the news business. Do you know the courage that took to do that in an authoritarian state like Russia? And I think one of the most interesting things, Anderson, was she was immediately arrested. We thought we'd never see her again. And she was just fined and then let go. And you know what? I think that's a huge sign of weakness if it remains the case by Putin, because I think he was terrified she would become an international martyr and an example for other journalists. And then the amazing creativity, inventiveness of people going onto Airbnb's platform on their own with no one, wasn't like Airbnb ordered this, and in an emergent way, suddenly renting rooms. Now over 490,000 nights of rooms from people in Ukraine for the sole purpose not of obviously visiting those rooms or sleeping in them, but simply to transfer money to them. So it's like their own, autonomous people-to-people foreign aid policy that's transferred millions of dollars now to help Ukrainians who may be hiding in their basement get through this crisis, or at least have some resources when it comes out of it, when they come out of this. So this amazing creativity of people, and you have to salute all of it.
I want to put that picture back up of Marina I want to make sure I always get her name right, of Sianakova. Because not only for her bravery, you mentioned the anchors like the Russian Walter Cronkite. I don't know that Walter Cronkite was ever so dead-eyed on the air as that Russian anchor is. She looks quite dead behind the eyes. But one of the things you write about, which I thought was fascinating, is there's a lot of talk in the last years about the end of kind of the global community, the death of globalism. The Airbnb is one example, but this has shown sort of the interconnectedness of things in an interesting way, you write about.
Well, after every big global crisis, 9/11, 2008, the pandemic, you can set your watch by it. Someone writes that globalization is over. Well, globalization, gets slowed down sometimes. It got slowed down by World War II, okay? But people's desire to connect, okay, and the technology enabling it is not going away, okay? And one of the most interesting, unexpected twists of this, again, expecting the unexpected, is China has its own vaccine. Turns out its vaccine is not very effective against Omicron, or not effective at all. They've now got a huge outbreak there. They operated on a quarantine policy over the years of just zero tolerance. So they never, during the past 2 years, built up much herd immunity. They've got a spread of Omicron now that's forcing them to basically close down cities like Shanghai, stopping manufacturing, and guess what? Not using much oil. So this morning, the price of oil, that one thing that Vladimir Putin can sell and get money with, crashed basically. Fell from 130, down to $100. And there is, China, because of how it dealt with COVID, affecting Putin and how he's going to be able to manage his economy. And so everything's still connected. I would say another thing, Anderson, one of the oldest, saws in foreign policy is China and Russia. They play chess, but we play checkers. We Americans, we don't get it all. We just play, we're plotting, we play checkers. Well, you know what? Old Sleepy Joe playing checkers, just moving from red to black, down the board, meat and potatoes, putting together an alliance. I'd say he's done pretty darn well. And the people who are playing chess, right? The Russians, old Vladimir, he's been playing Russian roulette. He just blew his brains out. And the Chinese, I think, are really flummoxed because they get wheat, they get corn, they get fertilizer, they get oil from Russia. All these are rising in price. And how's that going to affect their lower and middle classes? So they're sitting there thinking, boy, I really, would like to see the Americans fail there, but holy mackerel, this war is causing real inflation in commodities in my own country, and that's not good for old Xi Jinping.
You write that there will be more surprises and they won't all be pleasant. Do you think there's any hope of this ending anytime soon in your view?
I think the real wild card in this, Anderson, is what we can't see. The West, the alliance, dropped the equivalent, as I said before, of an economic nuclear bomb on Russia. But the blast radius of that bomb moves out rather slowly. So right now, Russia is heading to a situation where it will have no domestic or international airlines because its airlines are actually owned by Irish leasing companies. You can't take a bus from Moscow to Vladivostok. Its currency has been crushed, basically, in relation to the dollar and other Western currencies. They're not going to be able to get microchips to do manufacturing. So this is going to slowly build up. In 30 days, their economy is going to be in a very, very perilous state. And I think that's when Putin's going to be sitting there thinking, I'm bogged down here, my economy is being crushed. And guess what? Maybe tomorrow 5 journalists will come out, and then maybe 10. So I wouldn't want to be in his shoes right now. I don't think it's a simple matter, but the bomb we dropped on his economy, it will very slowly build an explosion, and it's going to be a huge, huge problem for him.
Tom Friedman, always fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anderson.